right, and we're going live on YouTube. Oh, so exciting.
Yay. You got
All
it?
right, we are now live on YouTube. Yay! Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Tyler Ellison. I am joined by my lovely co-host and friend, Yahira. And it's such a pleasure to be here with you all. So we're just going to take a second to get set up. We're operating primarily on Zoom, and then from Zoom, we're streaming onto Facebook. So we're just taking care of a few technical things. We're just going to hit the record button. So after this transmission, we can upload it. My camera, nice. So recording, and I'll record on my computer. Then Yahira, you can do the cloud. Once I make you the new host, I'm about to make you host. Well, I'm going to allow you to record first. So I just gave you permission, and now I'm going to make you the new host.
There.
So you are now host. Great. All right. So we are now streaming live onto Facebook. Oh, great. We have 14 people watching right now. That's super exciting. So hello, everybody.
Can you
Thank you for being here.
check if you're recording on the cloud or on the computer?
Um, I can't officially, well, all I know is it says recording on my end. So I know I'm recording right now. And I selected computer. So that means your option would be cloud.
Yeah, got it.
Great, great. So
I want to say hi. I haven't said hi to everybody. Greetings, everybody. I'm really happy to have Ryok coming in and talk about coronavirus primarily and answer questions. So welcome, everybody.
Yeah, it's good to have you all here. And we have some exciting stuff coming up. So in addition to tonight's no-cost transmission, we also, this Thursday the 30th, we have another transmission, which is $35, which is titled Elementals and the Inner Earth. And Ryok's going to be talking about how we can use elemental consciousness to access the inner earth networks. And he's going to talk in depth about what elementals are, the elementals that relate to inner earth, and how inner earth and crystals and our bodies all connect, and how inner earth is sort of this ancestral portal that acts as like a database essentially for our collective consciousness. So if you're interested in that, tune in this Thursday, and for tickets you can email me at tellison700@gmail.com, and we'll post that description. We'll post that email address rather in the description once this video is formally published. And you can also check out the post Yahira has been doing on Facebook, or my own Facebook posts also for that email address as well. But that will be this Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Yahira has some awesome news about the raffle we've been doing.
So at the end of the transmission, we're gonna be drawing one name that's gonna be the one who's get a free access to Thursday transmission with Ryok. And we just want to remind you that you can still participate for next upcoming transmissions. We just need like the screen, your subscription to Health Thyself channel, to the Facebook, Tyler Ellison Facebook group, and Facebook page, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you, so can you say one more time for everybody what they need to do?
Okay, send a screenshot to my email. We're gonna let it on the chat box below. From subscription to your Health Thyself channel, like and share your Facebook page, Tyler Ellison, and join the Ryok Channeling Facebook.
Yep. So if you take a screenshot of all of those actions of the subscriptions and the joining of the pages, the event promotion, then we enter your name in the raffle. So you have the opportunity to receive free access to the upcoming transmissions where you get to ask Leo 3 questions. So that's something we're super excited about. And that was Yahira's awesome idea. And I'm so awesome she came up with it, received it, because I think it's a great way to help people who want to join in, but for whatever reasons might have challenges with that, to have an opportunity to participate and to have like really close interactions with Ryok. So that's super exciting.
Oh,
Um,
one more thing. For the people who are um, let the write down the questions so I can be scanning them and choose like the more relevant for the collective. So you can start submitting your questions now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, go ahead. You can type them in the YouTube chat and then she'll take a look at them. And yeah, we'll pick the ones that are the most relevant. And we are always open to answering all types of great questions that everyone comes up with. But because tonight is sort of this collective transmission where we're talking about global events in relationship to COVID and sort of why this is happening and what that represents, we're going to be prioritizing questions that are a little more oriented towards that, just so everyone who tunes in can receive the most powerful information related to that topic. So if you do ask personal questions, it might get selected, but it all depends on if there's more thematic relevant questions present in that chat, because that's kind of what we're looking for, just so that way everyone who tunes in can really get the most understanding available to them about these global events we're experiencing. So anything else, Yahira, for our announcements?
I think we're ready to bring Rio.
Okay, great. Well, everybody, it's so much fun to be here with you. And oh man, this is our first transmission. Oh, we got 55 people. This is great. I just wanted to tune in real quick and look at the numbers. Okay, I'm gonna get off of YouTube and close my eyes so I can bring him through. So again, thank you everybody for being here, and may you all be well and enjoy the conversation. All right, and we thank you all so much for the co-creation of this interaction. It is our civilization's highest joy, passion, and excitement to be here with you in this unique perspective of the now, delivering this particular transmission that relates in many ways to the idea of your global events, both energetic and physical in nature. And we will be expressing how the energetic collective events are relating to your energetic physical events. For understand that the reason you have the phrase as above, so below, in many ways relates to the idea of that which occurs within the higher frequency versions of reality, what you consider to be the subtle realms, the realms of spirit, will always have a manifestation effect within the idea of your physical lives. So understand the reason you are experiencing the idea of your global event you consider to be your coronavirus, as well as the many other collective events, globally speaking, that are occurring for you, is because of energies that have been building within your collective unconscious. For understand, everything you experience in your physical reality, first and foremost, has an origin point in the idea of that non-physical level of yourselves you call your collective unconscious, your collective subconscious. And the idea is that when certain energies in that more spiritualized levels of your consciousness reach a particular peak, you will then experience that energy playing out in the physical reality. Now, understand that just as there are infinite versions of your physical reality available to you, playing out side by side with one another simultaneously, that is also present in spirit. In other words, there are alternate versions of your collective unconscious that exist side by side with one another. And in that sense, it is your frequency in the physical reality that actually determines which version of your collective unconscious you are aligning with. And that then determines how your collective reality unfolds. Many of you are familiar with what has been called the idea of the astral realm, and understand that at certain levels of the astral realm, there is a particular level that is similar to a blueprint. And this is where you have the idea of the following availability: the ability to select different phenomena, different occurrences from the series of collective unconscious energies in a way that is personalized to your preferred frequency, to your preferred experience. So you then, in many ways, will pick and choose from that astral level, from that spirit level, different energies, different frequencies from different versions of your collective unconscious that then are embedded energetically into that blueprint. That blueprint, in many ways, then becomes the foundation for how you create the idea of your personal unfolding in your personal reality that you are creating. Now, understand, the process of creating one's reality occurs both consciously and unconsciously. What we mean by that is the following: you are creating your experience of physical reality from the idea of that spirit level, from that astral level, where you're selecting energies from the idea of the different versions of the collective unconscious for your blueprint. And you then add on to that, you then create more and create with that whilst you are awake consciously in your physical reality with the idea of your state of being and your choices. So your process of creating your reality experience occurs when you are both asleep and when you are awake, when you are both dreaming and when you are moving throughout your physical reality. So you're constantly creating, whether you recognize it or not. Now, in relationship to the idea of the different frequency versions of your collective unconscious, you select the version of your collective unconscious that you channel most prominently into your individual experience based off of your frequency in the now. So when you are in a more positive frequency, when you are expressing your true self whilst you are awake in your physical reality, you are aligning energetically to the idea of a more positive expression of your collective unconscious. And in that sense, it allows for you to begin to experience within your physical reality the idea of a more preferred, a more positive, a more vibrant collective reality experience. When your individual vibration is more negative, whilst you are awake, moving throughout your reality, it's as if you are tuning into a more negative collective version of your collective unconscious, and that creates the idea of a more negative expression of your collective reality that you perceive whilst you are awake. Now, going back to the idea of what we opened with, as above, so below, enough of your collective unconscious versions have reached within themselves a certain frequency, a frequency that represents the idea of a new level, a new octave of embodiment of what you consider to be the frequencies that are natural to who you are. As we have said, there are multiple versions of your collective unconsciousness that you're plugging into and plugging out of and plugging into and plugging out of based on your frequency while you're awake, that have reached within their own collective energy a new level of embodiment of the heart, of the energies of unconditional love. So that means that even though you have the ability to plug into positive versions of the collective unconscious and negative versions of the collective unconscious, the idea is that enough of them have reached a certain threshold, have reached a new level, where the idea is that the way that they play out in your physical reality, these collective energies can no longer look the same as they used to look. In other words, your collective unconscious and its multiple versions have transformed so much that no matter which ones you plug into, your physical reality will continue to look very different, because you're plugging into very new, upgraded, updated versions of your collective energies. So no matter what you choose, no matter what your frequency is, you will continuously be experiencing very different versions of Earth that are very different than what you're used to. Now, as we have said, there are some collective frequencies of that unconscious that are more positive and more negative. In general, they have all reached a particular upgrade. However, they do not all lead to what you consider to be positive timelines, despite the idea of that heart embodiment. For understand that it's as if you are selecting the idea of different narratives for your collective when you plug in to certain realities. You can plug in, so to say, to a very positive collective narrative. You can plug in, so to say, to a very negative collective narrative. And the idea is that these narratives, which are linked to different versions of the collective unconscious, have a particular momentum. And the idea is that each of them are accelerating into their own unique direction, into their own unique manifestations. Some of them relate to that which you prefer, some of them do not. The idea is you determine which version you're lining up with based off of your frequency. Now, for whatever reason, many of you have chosen to plug into certain collective narratives that are less positive, and you may be observing the idea of that playing out in your reality around you. There may be things like rioting. There may be things like protests with certain elements of chaos that you don't prefer. There may be certain elements of sickness happening around you. Now, as we have said, each of these versions of the collective unconscious have reached a certain level, a certain threshold where there is a particular embodiment of that heart energy. How that translates into your physical reality is the following. In those more negative collective narratives, you have the opportunity to fully immerse yourself completely, totally, utterly into the vibration, into the frequency of unconditional love in a way that will slingshot you to a very positive timeline, to a very positive frequency version of Earth, yourself, and your life. That is what the upgrade has allowed. Even if you're experiencing a negative collective narrative, you have the ability, because of the collective upgrade, to slingshot into the reality of your preference, regardless of if your timeline appears to be more positive or less positive. That availability to slingshot into the direction of your preference is now very available to you in a way that it had not been before, due to the idea of the collective upgrades within these different frequency versions of your collective unconscious, in relationship to the idea of the very positive timelines that you're experiencing. Many of you who are experiencing this have the ability to now slingshot yourself even more fully into those positive directions, allowing for you to experience even more positive manifestations, even more positive synchronicities. So whether your collective narrative appears to be very positive or very negative, the ability to transform in relationship to the direction of your preference is now incredibly available to you. That door is wide open. Now, we are going to begin to describe to you the idea of some of the themes within the different narratives So that way, you can begin to experience why some of these narratives are occurring, what they are revealing to you, so you can apply positive energy, positive belief, positive action to slingshot yourself in the way we have described. Now, many of you are experiencing realities where you are required to wear masks. Now, understand that's not a negative action. There are certain narratives that will tell you that's a negative action, that somehow this is going to impact your collective and your life in a negative way that you don't prefer. However, understand that's a belief system that reinforces the negative energy of the negative narrative, and in many ways promotes the idea of the continuous series of negative manifestations that represent that which you don't prefer. So when one aligns with the idea of a narrative that relates to the idea of wearing a mask is bad, covering my face is bad, something bad will happen if I do this, then you're actually crystallizing that which you don't prefer within your experience. You're making that perspective real through your energy. Now, one of the reasons that we say wearing a mask, so to say, is not a negative thing is because of the following. The intentionality behind why you are all collectively being asked to wear masks is for the following reason. To, in many ways, contain the spread of a pathogen. The intention behind that collective request is coming from a positive place of empathy, compassion, and consideration for those in your reality who are immunocompromised. It comes from a positive energy, the nature of that request. So to actually align with it is to align with a positive narrative. It's to align with a positive timeline. And that's how you begin to shift. That's how you begin to slingshot yourself. But when you say, this is a bad thing, this is wrong, this is me being oppressed, this is me being controlled, that's when you actually, through the idea of that resistance, crystallize the negative narrative instead of using that request as a permission slip to slingshot into a positive timeline, into a positive narrative. So, understand it in this way, if you will. When you walk into a temple, a spiritual temple, and you go into the temple, there may be certain customs. Take off your shoes here. Please wash your head with this water. Cover yourself in this incense. There are certain, so to say, requirements for entering into certain spaces, certain actions that represent the idea of keys in the lock to a door so you can gain access. And when you go to these temples, if you're drawn to that temple, if you feel that temple is relevant for you, then the idea is, out of respect, you say, all right, this custom, this invitation is a little different than what I'm used to, but because I desire to experience the collective, because I desire to experience access to this temple, so I may have this particular experience, I will engage in these customs. Even though they may be a little different to me, even though they may be a little bit strange to me, I will respect the idea of this so I may gain access. And it then allows for you to enter into the more positive timelines. But to walk into that temple and say, your beliefs are false. This exercise of covering myself in smoke or blessing myself or taking my shoes off does nothing. It's irrelevant. It's very similar to going into a temple and in that sense making a fuss about the idea of the requirements for entry to the temple that you have actually created for yourself to experience in the first place. And in that sense, why would you be granted access? So allow for yourself to see these collective requirements, if you will, as a symbolic key in a lock to the door that represents the preferred narrative. Because again, this collective request comes from the idea of a compassionate energy, from a compassionate motivation. We understand that in your collective history, there have been governmental procedures, governmental guidelines, governmental laws that have been unjust, unethical. This is very different. This comes from a place of compassion, based on the idea of the collective belief system. The idea of the unjust laws, the unethical laws, are in that sense not what is occurring here. However, because those types of governmental requests and laws that you consider to be unethical are still in some ways fresh in your collective consciousness, many of you observe this new request as something that is bad, wrong, negative, evil, oppressive. But that is not the case. However, of course, you can choose to see it however you prefer. We are simply sharing our perspectives of the energy. In relationship to the collective fear that we detect is present, in relationship to governmental control, governmental oppression, and the idea of this collective event being an expression of that, the reason this is so common in the narratives many of you are observing has to do with what you call karma in relationship to the Orion systems that your society is currently integrating. Because those energies are present in relationship to the Orion system within your soul memory, many of you, so to say, are in that sense attempting to process those simultaneous incarnational energies of Orion in your here and now during this collective event. So the fears related to the idea of oppression and control within the Orion system are coming to the surface now. And that's one of the reasons why you have these alternative collective narratives of evil, of oppression, of domination. It's that energy playing out. For those of you that are not familiar with the idea of the Orion systems, understand that within different planetary networks and stellar networks within the region of space that is approximately located around the Orion constellation, there was great conflict that lasted for eons that involved the idea of governmental oppression in relationship to tyranny. And understand that many of the souls that are expressing themselves on Earth presently have simultaneous incarnations in that system during those times. And because those energies were not integrated there, they are now playing out in your collective consciousness. That doesn't mean they're playing out literally, but what it does mean is that those energies are now playing out inside of you. And you have the ability in that sense to relive them in that way in relationship to this is bad, this is wrong, I must resist, I must fight, which again, as we have said, will more dominantly crystallize the negative timelines. Or you have the ability to say, I create my reality, I can create a positive meaning, I can choose positive energy, I can choose a positive action, and I can transform anything I experience in a positive way. Then you have the ability to once and for all integrate the idea of those Orion energies during this time, which means as your timeline expresses itself, the Orion energies that you consider to be more negative will become less and less and less prevalent in your collective perception. And that is one of the ways you can begin to slingshot yourself from the idea of a more negative narrative to the idea of a more positive narrative with positive synchronicity, with positive experiences. In relationship to the archetype, that is pertinent in the idea of your current negative Earth narratives that are also prevalent in the idea of the Orion narratives is the archetype of the rebel. And the rebel, again, is someone who believes they are assisting others, who believes they are carving a path of independence, of individuality, of empowerment. But in reality, they are actually, in that sense, utilizing negative beliefs to create a negative narrative from their own energy that they then feel they must fight against. But we remind you, you are not separate from your reality. You are not separate from your narrative. It's as if you are in your own storybook and you are the author of that storybook, as we have said in the beginning. You create consciously and unconsciously. So you have the opportunity to rewrite the story with a positive meaning. So you can take positive creative actions. So you can shift the archetype from the rebel out of the shadows into the archetype of the trailblazer into the light. The trailblazer is the one who chooses to carve new paths, to go in new directions, to embody their empowerment and their creativity, to explore and reflect others the idea of that same positive energy. And that is the light side, so to say, to the idea of that energy dynamic, archetypally speaking. So knowing this, you can now begin to more greatly apply positive story, apply positive energy, and take positive actions to, in that sense, let go of the attachment to the rebel so you can embody the archetype of the trailblazer. So you can trailblaze into the timeline of your preference. Because we remind you, it's all neutral. You create the effect with your story, with your meaning. To create the negative effect, first requires you to believe in the negative narrative and to validate that negative narrative as fundamentally true with your energy. And again, the reason that negative narrative is present is because of the karmic processing, so to say, within your collective consciousness in relationship to the Orion system. So you can use that energy as a slingshot technique, as a slingshot portal, so you can then trailblaze into the positive reality of your preference. We remind you, you can create beliefs in the same ways you create a story. What is your preferred belief about your government? What is your preferred belief about yourself? What is your preferred belief about the idea of your collective reality, of your human family, of your future, of your past? All of these are neutral subjects that you have the ability to define in whatever way you prefer. We remind you, the process of creating your preferred reality has three major components. The positive belief infused with the positive energy, demonstrated with the positive action, having no expectation. That allows for you, those three steps, to shift into the reality of your preference. Stay in that positive state no matter what, and continue to take actions that are reflective of the preferred positive beliefs, and that will allow for you to trailblaze into any direction you prefer. So you can sail through this, showing others they no longer have to hold on to the dense energy of the rebel. They can embody the trailblazer, and you will then increase the probability of experiencing an acceleration in relationship to the resolution of this collective phenomenon you call the coronavirus. For it is showing up quite literally to assist you all in transforming the Orion energies. In other ways, it also has significance in relationship to the idea of you letting go of certain energies collectively that manifest as certain structures that you consider to be non-preferred. So understand, right now, because of that collective upgrade in all versions of your collective unconscious, there is a ripe availability for you all to experience every structure in your reality going through a reorganization process. All of them, because they are all you. You guide that with your energy. It can be reshuffled, reorganized positively or negatively. The choice is yours because your ability to create reality is yours and is unconditional. It is one of the three fundamentals we have mentioned. And we will remind you now of these three fundamentals so you can utilize them in moments of uncertainty, in moments of challenge, to assist you in recentering yourself. The first fundamental, I am unconditional love. The second fundamental, I am an indestructible, immortal consciousness. The third fundamental, I unconditionally co-create everything in my reality, with no exception. Knowing these three fundamentals, you can very rapidly begin to align with that which is unconditionally true for you and for all beings, which again is the three fundamentals. Even though you all create your experience of truth based off your beliefs across all of your realities, those three fundamentals are true. And that's why you have the experience of being in alignment or out of alignment. Because when you're out of alignment in your energy, you're actually in resistance to the three fundamentals. When you're in alignment with your energy, you're in alignment to the three fundamentals. They represent the idea of the pillars of what you might call your true self, your true nature. So align with those three fundamentals. Create definitions, create beliefs, create narratives that represent those three fundamentals in different creative ways. Live your life from that place. And you will find very rapidly your individual and collective realities will shift from either negative to positive or from positive to ecstatically positive. And we thank you for your attention in this transmission thus far. We now make ourselves available to you in relationship to addressing your questions. So please allow for yourselves to now submit your questions, and the host will then read the questions to us, and we shall address them. Thank you all so much for your gifts, for your uniqueness, and for this amazing collective story that you tell yourselves in all of the different infinite ways that each of you do.
Hi, Riok. That was wow. I loved it. I
Yeah,
know that
thank you.
personally, I had transmuted a lot of energy, negative energy, a lot of rage, a lot of hatred. And this was perfect for me to purge that out of my system. So in that sense, it is a positive thing.
Yes, precisely. Because understand, everything in your reality has the ability to be used positively. Even if we say something that you feel, when we say you, we're referring to all who are listening, even if we say something that you feel you don't prefer, you don't resonate with, you don't have to necessarily believe it, you don't necessarily have to fight it, you can use it in a positive way. Anything that you experience can always be used in a positive way.
Okay, I have question from Ileana Lartigues. She says, why are some of the major events taking place related to difficulty breathing as COVID-19, George Floyd's death? What's that symbol?
It represents the idea of, again, resistance to the natural self. For understand, what you consider to be respiration, inhalation, exhalation, relates to the idea of the flow of your consciousness from a perspective that you would consider to be internal to external, in that all of your reality is your consciousness. And when you breathe, you are experiencing external energies in a way, merging with your body consciousness, and you're then experiencing internal energies within you, then merging with your external reality, your external world consciousness. So understand that on the physical reality level, the breath relates to co-creative mergings and exchanges with internal and external dimensions of yourself. But it also relates to the following: the idea of energy mergings and exchangings with your physical reality self and your higher self. Because many in your collective are in resistance to the higher self, it's almost as if you are holding your breath. You're holding your breath. And that symbolically, in that sense, creates the idea of a stagnation in your physical reality between the idea of gaseous transference, CO2 and O2. And it also relates to the idea of a stagnation internally between the relationship of the higher self and the ego personality. And because many of you are experiencing resistances with your higher selves, you create the idea of such an event externally in the physical reality. But when you align, so to say, with the higher self, with the idea of the bird's eye view, it in many ways allows for such stagnation individually and collectively to be dissolved. And that theme of being unable to breathe will then begin to shift away from your collective narrative. But the reason it's showing up is to reflect back to the idea of the resistances between the ego personality and the higher self, or the idea of the mind and the heart. There's different ways you can phrase it.
Wow. Next question. About the eye of the needle, where are we on that?
It's actually, so to say, a little bit different in different realities. Different timelines that are linked to different versions of your collective unconscious have different factors, so to say, that manifest as some durations of this process that are shorter and some that are longer. It depends on your frequency. It depends on your vibration. As we stand currently, we are detecting you are emerging at what you might consider to be a halfway point in the corona narrative. Now, understand, time is a side effect of your consciousness. So even though you're energetically at a halfway point, that doesn't necessarily equal the idea of the amount of time you've experienced previously being the amount of time left in the idea of this energetic process. Because when you shift more positively, so to say, within your frequency, your sense of time accelerates. So you may experience, so to say, the collective event, so to say, of the corona experience ending in a way that is more proximal, linearly speaking. It depends on the frequency, but understand, a longer expression of this collective event is not necessarily a negative thing, because during this time, you have the ability to, in many ways, let go of a variety of different activities many of you were previously engaged in relationship to your collective that were actually not a part of your passion, but you chose out of a sense of belief that you needed to. And many of you are experiencing that you no longer need to create reality in that same way. So this corona experience collectively is providing all of you an opportunity to get in touch with what you actually prefer and what those energies are and how you can creatively express them in your lives. So even if this takes a little bit longer than you anticipate, that's not necessarily a negative thing, because that provides more opportunity for you to build your energies, for you to dream, for you to express those energies in a very insulated type of perspective. So when your society reemerges, those energies you've been building will then expand rapidly into your collective. So we encourage you, instead of focusing on the time, focus on the energy, because the energy impacts the time, because the time's a side effect of your consciousness, of your frequency.
Next question. How do we shift into our best 5D selves and still keep a close relationship with our family members?
By not assuming that embodying the energies you consider to be fifth dimensional means you must segregate yourself from the idea of those around you. Understand that embodying a high frequency doesn't mean that you're immediately going to detach from all beings around you. Understand, you can download those energies, so to say, you can embody those energies of what you call fifth density, fifth dimensional expressions of consciousness in relationship to expressing those frequencies through your life. And the idea is that when you channel those energies through you in your reality, you are providing those around you an opportunity to experience those energies so they can then choose to align with them. Those beings may stick around and play with you and explore those energies in their own ways. Other beings may choose to not match those energies and they may fall away. You don't need to force that. You don't need to expect how that will unfold. Simply embody those energies, because those energies are the energies of your heart, of your true nature, of unconditional love. And that contains everything that's relevant for you. So when you channel that energy that you call fifth density, fifth dimensional expression of consciousness through you, you are in that sense experiencing and creating an experience of a version of your life that contains all that's relevant for you. So that means individuals that are not relevant for that will fall away, either on their own or maybe through some type of exchange between you and they. You will find some individuals will become closer to you automatically or through some kind of exchange, some kind of process. And that will be whatever it needs to be. In that sense, allowing for fifth dimensional energies to flow through you in no way means that your relationship with those around you will weaken. If anything, you'll find it will intensify them, not necessarily in a negative way either. It will amplify your awareness of the interconnectivity between you and all beings, because that's the nature of the fifth dimension. When you're in the fifth dimension, you literally are the reality. You are the reality when you are fifth dimensional. So when you channel that fifth dimensional energy through you in your fourth density experience of Earth, you are allowing for your consciousness to very greatly perceive that interconnected linkage between you and all beings. So it does not mean things will become non-preferable in relationship to your relationships. It simply means they will change in a way that's based off of that energy, which is, again, your own heart.
That was so beautiful. I loved it.
Yes, and we thank you for your observation, and we love you unconditionally.
How does the magnetic pole switching affect us?
Well, understand it represents, so to say, the effects that you are perceiving in your collective consciousness of everything rearranging, of everything shuffling, of everything changing, of things being turned upside down. That's one of the reasons why all of these different things, planetary alignments, polarity, shifting, and collective rearranging are all happening simultaneously. Remember, one does not cause the other. They all come from your collective unconscious. They all come from your underlying energies as souls, as spirits. So remember, one's not causing the other. You are all choosing this. You, as a being, are the cause. You are the cause. You collectively are the cause of all that you experience. Now, that doesn't mean you're to blame for things. It simply means that it's all your dream. It's all you. So if you see something negative, you don't have to say, oh, I'm the cause, I'm creating suffering. It's simply, so to say, an external reflection that relates to your process. And every other individual in the reality is also equally the cause. But remember, they are also you. You create them as they create you. But you are always able to determine your state. You are always able to choose how you create yourself. So it's always in your hands. But in many ways, to simplify, the pole reversal relates again to, in many ways, polarity reversal in your consciousness. From darkness into light, from negativity into positivity. That's one way it can be experienced. There's other ways. And those other ways relate to other timelines that you may not prefer. So apply the meaning that you do, so the pole reversal can then amplify you shifting in relationship to the more positive expression of polarity, which is not only the positive, but it's also the neutral. The neutral allows for you to be stable in your collective and individual and planetary polarity shifts.
Awesome, thank you. Next one, can you talk a bit about the recent disclosure from Pentagon and UFOs? Is the window of open contact shifting closer?
In some realities, yes. In some realities, yes. Understand that the disclosure that you are receiving represents doorways, energetically speaking. Because understand, many individuals will see that disclosure and will say, oh, that's not real. Oh, that's just a bunch of baloney. And for those individuals, that type of disclosure will not correlate with more proximal periods of contact. But for individuals that say, yes, how exciting, an external reflection of open contact, an external reflection of my preferred reality, that can then act as a doorway for those individuals to experience more proximal levels of open contact. So it depends on one's energy in relationship to the disclosure. Remember, it's a neutral symbol. It can play out in a variety of ways based on the beliefs and definitions applied to the neutral symbol. But these are ways it can be explored and can be expressed.
Thank you. Do higher levels of consciousness utilize the same archetypes we do? And
Yes.
how do beings relate to them?
Yes. Yes. And they blend them. They blend them. You blend them too. However, you will find that you as an individual are drawn to certain archetypes. You may really enjoy being the explorer and the artist and the lover. And you may find these are the areas you gravitate to. One of the reasons that those archetypes for you in this example are most prevalent is because they reflect some of the predominant archetypes within the soul. It means the soul is experiencing those archetypes in a very deep way. And the archetypes in that sense relate to the particular nature of that soul. But just as you can shift through different archetypes, so can the soul as the soul grows and expands, because the soul is also growing and changing and shifting and evolving just as you do. And it does so based off of the stimuli that it receives from your physical reality experience. All stimuli from all lifetimes, past, present, future, all occurring simultaneously, feed the soul in a particular way, educate the soul in a particular way, calibrate the soul in a particular way. And in that process, the soul will find that certain archetypes become revealed to it in a deeper way than before, linearly speaking, of course. For all versions of your soul exist now.
We are 6 minutes away.
All right.
Being over. So
the number of perfection. How exciting.
So do you want to say something just to close it up? And
we'll take one more question, if one more question is present, and we will then deliver a closing.
Okay. In a previous transmission, why did Ryok refer to Bashar as the Bashar, almost as if Bashar is a title? What does...
One of the reasons for this is because Bashar, in many ways, is not a name in the way you understand names. Even though you may consider it to be a name, it's more of a term, because our species does not utilize names at all. We pick terms for your convenience. So you can, in that sense, feel more familiar to us, because we know how much you all like to label things. My name is not Riok. That's a term that is selected for your convenience. So you can become more familiarized with my energy. It allows for you to more easily contain my energy in your imagination. The reason we utilized the Bashar's name in that way, utilizing the prefix of the, is because Bashar translates loosely into the idea of the term messenger in your ancient languages. So we are, in that sense, referring to this being, all of you know as Bashar, as the messenger. And that is why we utilize the word the in relationship to mentioning this particular first contact specialist from our species.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Thank you very much, Ryok.
Yes, you are quite welcome. We thank each and every single one of you for the co-creation of this interaction. It is always our civilization's highest joy and passion to have these experiential forms of contact with you in these unique ways when we have them. We bid you all an exciting now, an exciting adventure into the unknown. We remind you, the unknown is you. Whenever you say, I don't know what is going to happen, that's a moment to celebrate. That's a moment to rejoice. That's a moment to play. The reason is the following. You create the unknown from the now. So as you choose to respond to the unknown with love and joy, it means you're actually creating your experience of the unknown that reflects that which is true for you. So you can move endlessly, infinitely into your future, so to say, linearly speaking, with love, paving that road with love, because that unknown is you simply awaiting your meaning, simply awaiting your belief, simply awaiting your definition to mold it, to craft it into your experience. So whenever you say, I don't know what's going to happen, become excited. And that means your experience of the unknown will be exciting as long as you're in that state of excitement. So no matter what you hear, no matter what occurs, remember, it's just a dream. You have the ability to give it the meaning. You have the ability to shift to the timeline of your preference. Use the tools we have presented here. Use the tools that have been presented, so to say, in our other recordings, and use the tools that we will continue to share. And you will find that you will have more than enough to craft your reality in a way that truly represents who you are. And you will find at a certain point, you will know in your bones your preference. And you will know in your bones how you can create your preference no matter what you experience. Our unconditional love and appreciation once more to all of you. And we will speak to you all again very soon in a new way, with new play, in a new day of your here and now.
Oh, that was awesome.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun, and I had a great time. Thank you so much, Yahaira, for hosting and for bringing these questions to Ryok and for being so awesome. It's great to be playing with you in this way. And thank
Yeah, I got a little nervous at the beginning. I was nervous because I'm like my mind is in a lot of things, the kids, stuff. But it was so enriching, so it's soul food, right? I feel like rejuvenated because I had a lot of resistance towards wearing masks, so it helped a lot.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah. Oh, you're super welcome. And thank you, everybody who tuned in for tuning in. It's great to have you here. And tune in this Thursday for our next transmission. And speaking of this Thursday, we are now going to draw the name.
Okay, I have it here in my little pumpkin Halloween basket. May the best align win, right?
Mateus. Mateus.
Michelle.
Mateus, you will be the individual who gets to experience no cost admission to this Thursday's transmission, as well as an opportunity to ask 3 questions to Ryok. So, congratulations. It's awesome to have this moment with you. And to everyone else who put in a name, who is participating in this raffle, your name is going to be maintained in that beautiful pumpkin container. And for the following transmission, which I'm very excited to announce, I'll save the announcement, but yeah, I'll save the announcement. I won't give it away just yet. I've gotten some teasers on it. There will be another drawing for a no cost admission to that following transmission, and your name will be maintained in that pumpkin box. So we will then draw a new name for the next one. But Mateus, congratulations.
Yeah, so whoever is healed here can still participate, and whoever wants to participate can send me the information. They can check my Facebook page too, Jahaira V. Pereira, and I have the announcement there. And keep participating to get these awesome giveaways from Riok.
Yeah. So fun, so fun. Woo! This was amazing. I love doing this. I feel fantastic, so good, and infinitely bubbly. So
Yes, and thank you everybody who, was posting questions and commenting. We cannot go through all of them, right? But we're so grateful for joining us. It was awesome, really beautiful. Thank you very much, everybody.
yeah, thank you all. We're gonna sign off for now. But we wish you all a great day, a great night wherever you are in the world, and happy sculpting, happy dreaming. And feel free, yeah, once you've joined in these pages, right, that relates to the raffles, feel free to leave us comments, messages. It's awesome to hear from you. We love your feedback, and I know my heart always expands when I see people just sharing how the information impacts them and their feelings towards it, and it's great, man. So always stay in touch. We love you all, and we will talk to you soon. So I'm gonna end the
I just want to say the name once again. Mateus Pimentel. Mateus Pimentel.
excellent, excellent, and we can reach out to Mateos too after this as well, just to confirm.
Yes.
All
Bye
right.
bye. Thank you very much, all.
Bye,
Love
everybody. Love y'all. So, Yahira, I'm going to end the recording on my end if you want to end it on yours.
you. Okay.
And we will see you all again very soon. All right. Bye bye.